pinkish hue.
I got so sunburnt the other day.
Did you really?
Oh my God.
What happened?
I went to the girls, had their first softball, like another softball tournament. And it was supposed to be...
And it was on a beach?
No, it was just in the... I mean, well, you know how it goes. Like, in those things, there's just like 17 fields.
Yeah.
They just clear cut everything. So there's no trees, there's no shade, there's no anything. We're supposed to go like...
Fantastic if you have allergies and the wind's blowing. It's great.
It's beautiful. They were supposed to have a game about every like 90 minutes or so, and then we would have a break of 90 minutes. So you just... Like, I can kind of sit there for a while and not be a problem. But 2 other teams dropped out, so they had 3 games in a row.
I just picture you sweating so bad at this thing.
Oh, it's awful. So I'm sitting there, and then like 2 games in, I kind of turned to Katie. I was like, I really should have put on sunscreen. She's like, oh my God, like my neck was purple. It was so bad. She's like, let me spray you right now. I was like, the damage is done. We're just gonna go ahead and ride this out and hope for the best afterwards. I'm not gonna. Can't change direction now.
The skin cancer settled in.
It has.
It's everything.
It's not gonna get any worse. Let's say that.
Oh my God, what you been up to? What's been going on?
Not much, man. Just hanging out. Just getting ready for record breakers.
Slingshot record breakers.
Slingshot record breakers this year.
I'm excited for that. You were just hammering out a bunch of stuff with the team, getting everything all ready for that.
Yeah, it's been really fun. Getting up here to get to do get some work done, and just look forward to that and some other cool projects that are in the works. Just making sure that we continue each year with record breakers to get a little bit better and better.
Yeah.
So we've had a couple of different sponsors before. Now you're kind of headline sponsor, and we're just working on making sure that no other meet around is going to kind of be able to hang with not only the quality of the meet, the quality of the lifters, but just the lifter experience and the viewers experience as well. Not only in person, but also live stream as well.
Yeah, and how the lifters getting treated and everything. Some of these, there's a lot of people put on some good meets around the country, and you and I have always just kind of been like, hey, let's just kind of take note of how some of these things go, what it looks like. And rather than just people randomly saying, hey, that was a good meet because nobody died, let's have it actually be a good contest that's fun.
Right.
And that doesn't have a lot of BS surrounding it, which sometimes is unavoidable. But you do the best job you can to make sure everything is fun, make sure the lifters are treated correctly, and make sure that the lifters feel like professionals,
right.
Whether they are or not. They feel like they're part of something. That's what people want to do, is they want to feel like they're part of something great. They're part of something really cool.
Right. And that's, what we're trying to do. And every year, we always kind of, get together and kind of take a look back and say, what did we do well this time? What can we do better next time? And try and put it all together and do everything that we can to take those steps towards making things better every year. On all fronts. The in-person, in-lifter experience, and also kind of the viewer experience online as well. So it's just a matter of, one step in front of the other and making sure you get constant feedback. And when you do get that feedback, try and act upon it as much as you can.
Jeremy Ovilla, somebody that you've been training for a long time, had a really huge breakout contest, and it's of no surprise.
Right.
You and I both have seen how strong he is, and you've been coaching him for a long time, and you've been seeing him day in and day out for a while now. And, he's banged himself up here and there. He's had great performances on the platform. He's lifted some heavy weights in the gym, but he really put everything together in this last contest, squatting 804 pounds, which those of you that have seen Jeremy before, he does not look like a squatter by any means. I mean, this guy is jacked. This guy is all muscle, but he doesn't have the leg development that you would think. A lot of times these guys that squat 800 pounds have very, very, I'll just say kind of overdeveloped quads, hammies. Right. I mean, big calves. I mean, this is a very thin-looking guy. Squatted over 800 pounds, benched around 430, 420.
I think he did 434, I think is what we did.
Yeah, so over 430 pounds. And then went on to deadlift 886 pounds, right?
Yeah, 887. Yep.
887. I mean, this is that's a unbelievable total. Was it at 220?
At 220, weighing, I want to say
205 or something.
Weighing 217.4. And the only reason I know that and that it's important is that he, while doing all that, became the lightest raw lifter to ever total 2,100 pounds.
Wow.
Yeah, so he totaled, I think, 2137 at 217.4.6, which put him all time top three, top three all time deadlift, top four all time total, top all time Wilks, and he became the lightest person to total 2,100.
What makes him so different? I mean, I recognize that, Jeremy, if you're listening to this, we're going to do some bashing on you a little bit, but we're all in good fun and all in good spirit because we love you. But Jeremy he's just a different kind of person, period. But like, what separates him out with his lifting? Like, what have you been able to put your finger on? Like, what the hell is this?
We've kind of talked about it a little bit, where I think there's just like a fear and pain tolerance that is not everybody has. When he'll just put whatever is on the bar, I'll do it. Like, okay, cool. That's you can say that and you can want to say that because it kind of sounds tough, but to really just be like, I don't give a shit what's on the bar. It's like, I'm just gonna murder this thing. He has that aspect to him, and he just seems to not. He can kind of turn on, or he has a different gear, turn something on, whatever you want to say, that just allows him to, just, it doesn't matter what's on the bar sometimes because it looks effortless. It looks like it's not there. He doesn't look like he's in pain doing it. It doesn't look like it's hard. He just kind of either turns on or turns off, whatever it is. Right. And that ability to do so is certainly special. But, he's just a really good athlete, very, very fast kid. He was a football player for a while there, but I mean, he can jump and run, really, really quick. So
he's not your typical meathead. Anybody who's ever met Jeremy, I mean, he's wearing like a ripped up Beavis and Butthead shirt. Most guys that are jacked, are going to wear a little tighter shirt.
Right.
Maybe going to wear some shorter shorts, reveal the quads and hammies and stuff a little bit, and going to, kind of fit the part of being a meathead. But he certainly doesn't fit the bill for your typical meathead. He kind of looks like a guy that you would see at like a punk rock concert or something, or somebody you would smash into in a mosh pit or something. And you're like, oh my God, that guy's that guy's pretty damn strong, right? He doesn't have the typical look of some of the powerlifters and some of the bodybuilders out there.
Yeah, he kind of blurs things really, really interestingly. But yeah, he's not a prototypical look to him one way or the other. And he just really likes to lift, and it's just something that he's really good at. He knows he's really good at it, and he wants to continue to be good at it. So he's willing to work for it and work hard and put in the time that he needs to. But you know what? He goes in and out of looking like he could be the best powerlifter of all time, and then looking like he could be headed back to rehab at any time.
Yeah.
And I only say that because of some of his inconsistencies in action. So when he's on, there's nobody that can touch him, and he's one of those people where most of the time his worst enemy is himself. If he can get out of his own way, and that's a lot of stuff that I'm really, really happy that I have him in person. If he was a distance client, I think it would be a much different scenario. But I think that when he's there, I can kind of help him get out of his own way and do the things that he kind of really needed to do.
I remember lifting with him and Kyle Kingsbury, and I knew that I knew I was outmatched. I mean, I already knew how strong Jeremy was, but he was kind of just coming onto the scene at that point. His strength wasn't wasn't so far beyond mine that I was willing to just give in to him right away. But it just kind of happened automatically because as we were working up with weight and as we were lifting and everything, he started to do what I barely did for a single, started doing it for sets of 3, and then added another plate, and it just got worse and worse from there. And it's like, oh my God. And I remember Kingsbury just kind of being really taken back, and he was just like, what, Kyle's somebody that you trained and you worked with for a long time too. And Kyle's really strong.
Yep.
And Kyle's seen, a lot of some of the best athletes in the world, you could argue, right? But Kyle was like, I don't understand what's going on here. What do you mentioned him having the ability to turn something else on. In your expertise with all the different people that you worked with over the years and all the different people that we've seen lifting world record weights, do you think he's got some sort of connection to his nervous system that's just maybe maybe different than everybody else?
Yeah, I do think that there's something to it, and I don't know. Like I said, I don't know if it's turning on or turning off whatever is kind of going on in his head or in his body. But there's certainly something that he has that not a lot of other people
Smokey,
have.
did you bring in a grilled cheese sandwich? That smells wonderful.
That does smell really good.
It does.
That's not grilled cheese though.
I think it's just steak and rice.
You're just obsessed with grilled cheese.
I'm just fat.
Grill me a cheese.
I sent you a picture of the grilled cheese sandwich that I ate.
That looked good.
It was really good.
You ate one today?
No, this was Saturday. I was
Normal-
Saturday or Saturday.
Normal grilled cheese. You didn't do anything special to it.
I had a barbecue bacon cheeseburger before it, and then I ate a grilled cheese sandwich after.
Well, hold on. Let me explain some of the science behind that. The barbecue sauce raises. Hang with me here for a minute.
Sure, you
Burdick.
got it.
You know the science behind
Yep.
a lot of this. So the barbecue sauce spikes the insulin levels, right?
Oh, is this is like a John Anderson scientific thing, right?
Yeah. What was it? Ice cream? A gallon of ice cream? No, pound of bacon.
Pound of bacon chased by some ice cream, or the other way around, and they negate each other somehow.
No, the fat slows down the absorption of the. So, what was I saying? He's the best. And mid-sentence, he's like, John, you can't, it doesn't work that way. You can't just.
Did he ever acknowledge it?
No.
Just no.
In his world, no. I think the best story was it Terry, his wife, girlfriend, when they were at like a family function, and he ate like a whole chicken and then just walked into the bathroom. They were in some like small cottage or something. Goes into the bathroom and where they're just a small room away. There's just a door separating them, and
The bathroom was part of the kitchen.
Right.
Oh no, yeah.
And everyone had to like leave the house, and he's like, "What? What happened? Where did everybody go?" It's like, John, you just ruined this whole
Everyone's
house.
got a weak stomach around here.
Exactly.
That guy's a savage.
But anyways, yeah, continue the barbecue cheeseburger to grilled cheese sandwich explanation.
Well, it raises the insulin levels, and then barbecue sauce has a tremendous amount of sodium in it. So you're getting this influx of carbohydrates, but the sodium and the insulin spike together are launching the barbecue sauce into the muscle cells.
Launching. Barbecue sauce launching ability. Got it.
Yeah.
We're gonna see this somewhere at the Arnold on like a protein thing.
Right.
Like barbecue sauce launching ability.
Under normal circumstances, this could be a negative thing because your glycogen stores could fill up too much in the muscles, and then you could have some spillover and start to look kind of fat and flabby, right? But not in this case. This is where Andrew is a genius. He filled everything back up by getting the grilled cheese sandwich because he slowed down the absorption. So throughout the rest of that day and throughout the next of that night and all the way into the next morning, that glycogen is being stored in the muscles, and that's why he looks so jacked today. You notice the shirt is clearly tighter around the pecs and around the shoulders than normal.
So basically, this is it. That's just basic nutrient partitioning is what you went over.
101.
Right? And nutrition timing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Instead of berberine and alpha lipoic acid, he went with grilled cheese.
I should have known. I should have known.
Why shoot up a bunch of insulin, which could be really dangerous, when you can have a grilled cheese sandwich?
It's called science, bro.
Yeah.
The sourdough is important too, but I don't want to get into the science.
It's fermented bread. It's good for your stomach.
See?
Yeah. Sourdough.
Yep. That's why I had sourdough. Didn't mess up my stomach at all.
No, not at all. So there wasn't anything special about the grilled cheese, though. It was just regular cheese.
Yeah, it was just amazing because I haven't had a grilled cheese sandwich in, I don't know, really long time. But
Was it American cheese, cheddar cheese?
I believe it was cheddar.
All right.
Yeah.
Gotta
Maybe
get
the
that cheddar.
combination. Yeah, I
Cheddar.
don't remember.
I used the combination when I made one the other day. Cheddar cheese, Munster cheese, and American cheese.
Sounds great.
Oh, no, not American cheese. Monterey Jack.
I think your wife would kick you in the balls if you had American cheese in the house.
The kids eat American cheese.
they?
Yeah, I don't know.
That's amazing.
I kind of like American. I grew up eating American cheese.
Me too, but now kind
So
of
American.
the texture is really off. It's more of like a cheese jello of sorts. It's pretty rough. Pretty rough.
It's like
but it melts
just-
amazingly.
Yeah, it's just like somebody made like heavy cream, like extra cold or something weird.
Something. It's not. Yeah.
And it just kind of it melts like in your fingers basically. If
Totally.
you're trying to put it on a sandwich, it starts to.
And those
Fall
single
apart.
wraps are about one of the hardest things to ever open.
Oh,
the individual wrap
that.
things.
No, we don't have that.
No,
We don't have whatever that
Singles.
is.
that's
We-
American cheese.
No, I know, but we don't have that. We don't have that.
Kraft American.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, what is
Craft
that?
singles.
We don't have weird processed cheese.
That's
we
what
have,
I was talking about.
No, we got like fancy boar's head.
That's
rich
what
people
I'm talking
cheese.
about. That's what I was talking about. Your wife
Yeah.
wouldn't allow that in the house.
Yeah. We don't have the individually wrapped where that one thing always folds off and you got to eat it.
Yeah.
You got to eat it because like you're not going to put that on the sandwich and save it for later. You got to eat it right then, right?
They should just make them without corners.
Yeah. Now I haven't had weird processed cheese like that in a while, unless it's been like melted for like dipping purposes.
I don't know if they even
Like
do
a
that. That's more
Velveeta
a
cheese or
Velveeta.
something.
There you go.
Yeah, we've talked about
Jeez. I
We've
think we're
talked about-
grossing him out of eating his steak and rice.
we've talked about Velveeta before, and it's like
Velveeta's
some
fantastic.
weird chemical, right?
I don't think it's I don't think it's real at all. There's no naturally
Hmm.
occurring anything in Velveeta. I don't believe.
Anyway,
Unless
back
there's,
to what
like,
we were talking
a
about.
Velveeta mine somewhere in like South America.
Oh, a Velveeta farm? It's got to be next to what Walden Farms?
Yeah, delicious.
Yeah, where they grow that pancake syrup
That's great.
and honey mustard and Asian sauce and whatever else.
So
they
basically,
got.
we were talking about a chemical plant in South America.
Yeah,
Yeah,
nobody knows what that stuff's made out of.
it's amazing.
You got any idea where that
I
stuff?
don't know what the hell it's made out of.
Yeah, it is interesting that they chose to call it something farms.
It sounds
Who
natural.
owns that company?
Who owns the farm? Walden,
Yeah,
Mr. Walden.
Mr.
Just a
Walden.
guess,
He
just a guess.
hated calories, so he decided. Oh my God, that stuff is strange though, but it does taste good.
It does. I
The
think.
chocolate syrup's pretty good. The pancake syrup's pretty good.
I think is that the one with the really high, like sugar alcohols and everything.
It just doesn't say anything on the label.
Oh.
It just says it has nothing in it.
All right, because I know a couple of those are just
Oh,
bad
man.
news for.
Oh yeah, your butthole.
Yeah, bad news for the butthole.
Mm. For your butthole,
I would assume most
Or-
people's buttholes,
Oh.
but mine in particular, for
I
sure.
think most people just deny it and plow right through it.
I honestly think that people don't understand that that's not a healthy thing,
Mm.
and that it's kind of normal. And people are like, "Yeah, I got diarrhea."
What would you do instead of sugar alcohol?
Just regular alcohol. I really don't know. I mean, I think
Like if you really wanted like syrup or something, would you just have honey
I just have syrup. Yeah,
or just have syrup?
Yeah, absolutely.
Just regular syrup.
I mean,
Who cares?
yeah, I think at this point, having eaten so well for so long, kind of the sweet stuff that like I think you and I. Like a little sweet goes a long way. I couldn't drench, I couldn't drench my pancakes or anything in something and be able to finish
Oh.
them. I think it'd just be overkill. Remember the one time we went? What was that? We went to Chili's or whatever with Katie, and we got that like lava cake something or other, and both of us almost
we
died
had-
of insulin shock.
Yeah,
and she
we
was laughing at us
Went
and ate
into a
she
diabetic
ate,
coma.
yeah, but she ate both of our halves that we couldn't finish.
Yeah, that hurt.
I think there are just certain people who are able to do that.
You warned me zero
Zero of
everything.
everything. That's fantastic. It's
Mhm.
water.
Fiber,
Natural.
none, 0% of everything. But I think they get
Cellulose
away with
gel.
it because of the label, because of like the label claims or whatever.
Right. Well, it's yeah.
Oh, it does have cellulose in it.
That's
That's what it
cellulose
says.
gel.
Yeah.
Potassium sorbonate, yellow.
The
coloring.
cellulose is a fiber that your body like doesn't freaking digest or whatever. So I guess
It
it
has
doesn't.
sucralose and xanthan.
Yeah. So I guess it doesn't have calories, but maybe at some point it does, depending on how much you eat. It's got a patent and it's from New Jersey,
There you go.
Walden Farms Inc.
Linden, New Jersey. That's just probably where they make it. I think that's where the chemical plant is that kind of has the same they do all the scents. Remember were you ever on the New Jersey Turnpike where there's like that chemical plant that does the
New Jersey just stinks.
well, it just smells bad in general. But they have the well, they used to. They have the license to do all the Calvin Klein perfumes, and then they also do all the McDonald's perfumes. So one time in the same, you could drive on the same turnpike and smell like CK1 or whatever it is, but then you could also smell a like bacon double cheeseburger because the meat that McDonald's has is so terrible that they have to press in a smell to it.
Oh my
so
God.
it's got zero taste. So they have this thing that they press the scent into, and that's the thing that gives it taste. So there's a plant in New Jersey that does that. I would bet that's probably the same.
It's all the
plant.
same thing.
Yeah.
Damn.
That's weird.
It's yeah. It's
Anyway.
that low grade.
We were talking about Jeremy and his
Yes.
outstanding performance.
Yeah, and then we got onto grilled cheese.
And we were showing some
spun
old
out.
videos of him lifting with a Mexican wrestling mask.
Yes.
With
I thought you weren't supposed to reveal their identities.
with Dr. Deadlift,
Dr. Deadlift.
Kaylor Woolham, and they were going back and forth and having a deadlift battle. And part of the reason why I asked them to wear those masks is because, like, at the time, nobody knew who they were.
Yeah.
You know, and with Jeremy, he's still getting his name out there. Dr. Deadlift has deadlifted over 900 pounds, and he's getting a lot of awareness on social media. Jeremy's getting a lot of awareness now on social media. But for a long time, these guys were pulling big weights, lifting these huge weights, sacrificing their bodies. And I was just like, man, this is crazy that people don't know who these guys are.
I think at this time, Kaylor had the 198 all-time world record, and people still didn't know who the hell he was.
He just they had no clue. So we had them have this this crazy battle. Is there anything different that Jeremy does in his training than some other people that you have in their training?
Yeah, he doesn't show up half the time and, leaves halfway through sometimes. Like I said, when he's on...
Sounds like Ocho Cinco.
When he's on, he's about as good as it gets. And when he's off,
Iverson.
he's about as, as
Practice.
off as it kind of gets. So this meet, I was really, really pleased with how the meet went. I mean, for a number of different reasons. But, when he works hard, he works really hard. But there was a time about 5 weeks prior where he tried to deadlift 405 and he couldn't do it.
Jeez.
And he told me, he was just like, yeah, I'm going to probably just tell Dan that I don't really know what's going to go on. I don't know what's going to happen, whatever. And, knowing Jeremy and, being able to get to work with him for a while, it's half of it might be in his head, but there's still a decent possibility that half of it might actually be real and he's hurt and he can't do it.
Right.
But once he settled down and got into a little bit of a groove with training, it makes a lot of sense. His body really likes to be, as much as he doesn't like to be regulated and have a lot of things in order. His body really responds well to that. So like he made the joke, like, man, this whole sleep apnea mask that I'm trying to force him to wear now. It's really fucking with my sleep schedule. I'm going to bed at 11 and waking up at 7. I'm totally screwed up now. So usually he just kind of rolls in at the crack of noon, probably grabbed a beef jerky stick and, a Monster from 7-Eleven, and that's how he kind of starts his day. And then he comes to the gym and does whatever he...
And he's got a shitload of muscle on him, too. He's
a
jacked.
ton. Yeah, I don't know if... I don't think he's ever had his body fat kind of taken, but the guy's got somehow
probably...
an 8-pack on his back.
Yeah.
I've never seen anyone's back look quite like that.
That shit's really weird. When he posts like stuff on Instagram of him doing like pull-ups or something like that, it's like, what the hell is coming out of his back?
Yeah, it's again kind of just a unique structure and just a unique build.
I mean, aside, kind of joking aside, we know he's different,
Yeah.
and we laugh because just people that have been around Jeremy just know like ADHD times a million, right?
Yes.
But is there still something there that, like, is there some sort of drive that you've seen from other people that have world records, or is he just like, we didn't really see that from Eric Spoto, let's say, right?
Right.
Eric Spoto was different.
Yeah.
Eric Spoto kind of just went to the beat of his own drum, which is totally fine. You don't have to act or be like anybody else. There's a good shot of that back.
Yep.
You don't have to act or be like anybody else. You be your own person. And that's the way some people roll. But
Right.
do you think he has some sort of burning desire in himself to show people, like, I'm not a fuck up. I was addicted to drugs. I did have these problems, but I'm not that same person anymore.
Absolutely, and I think it's very important for him to prove that, not only to other people but to himself. And but I think there's a lot of people who have these issues and have that sort of kind of a makeup. It's an everyday battle. It's not I'm going to prove to you on this day, SummerSlam. I'm gonna prove it to you.
So he can use it as a positive here and there, but it ends up being a thing that torments him.
Yes.
For his lifestyle period, right?
Yeah, I think it weighs heavily on him because I think if he feels like he didn't get a meal in or he didn't lift as well, then it's just, well, I'm fucked now.
I'm
beat
done.
The hell out of himself. Screwed. It's over. I quit. I can't do anything right. Blah blah blah, and it just goes way downhill for him. So, it's an everyday battle, and that's why again trying to get him regulated and get him on a schedule for any any normal set of things.
It's insane. Bodybuilders don't have a stomach like that even. I
No.
mean, here he's just messing around. It's unbelievable.
So, I mean, he has, and he wants to prove that, but it is a battle in his head that I think he goes through every day. And, I try and relieve as much of that as I can by just saying, hey, man, just get here. I'll take care of the rest. I just need you to show up. And, there are days where he can just show up and he can do it. And then there's some other days where he just can't get out of his own way. You know what I mean? It starts by, his alarm clock doesn't go off, and then they don't have his favorite monster at 7-Eleven, and then it takes him an extra 10 minutes. He misses an exit. He does whatever he does, and then by the time he gets there, it's pretty much over before it started at sometimes.
Now, you've dealt with people like this before.
Right.
And I certainly have too. One of my own family members.
Mm-hmm.
You had one of your own family members who had
Yep.
some problems. I guess you'd say just functioning outside of, or just functioning in normal day-to-day life, right?
Yeah.
How has that helped you deal with some of these people? Because you had like Andy Zavala over the years, and you've had some of these other kind of troubled people, but you've taken them in, and you turned in, a situation that was very negative and turned it into something very positive. And now here these guys are, breaking world records, hitting these big lifts, and then also just being able to change their life kind of through the consistency of lifting.
Well, I think that's it right there. The gym has been, I'd say for you too, it's, the gym is salvation. It's a safe place. It's, it doesn't have to be real life. You can kind of get away from things. And that was the gym for me. It saved my life a number of different times and in a number of different ways. The gym that I have, at CSA Gym is, that's what I aim for it to be. I want people to be able to come there and be themselves and, and allow themselves to, express themselves physically in one way or the other. And I think it's a really powerful thing when someone starts to lift and starts to lift heavy, because, there's a consistency aspect that has to be there. So they're starting to, create some really, really good habits. And then there are challenges that you overcome. And then you realize, hey, I can do more than I did yesterday or the week before or whatever it is. And as small of a PR or whatever it is, when you really kind of look at real life, you're like, you know what? I did that. There's no reason I shouldn't be able to get a job, talk to this girl, or whatever it ends up being. The gym can kind of act as a way for them to kind of almost relate to real life, in a new, interesting way, because there's so many aspects of the gym with the consistency, discipline, overcoming thing, going through hardships, coming back, injuries, all this other stuff. You can really kind of relate a lot of that to life and
Going outside your comfort zone.
Sure, exactly. And then it's just like, hey, man, whatever life throws at you, you can kind of it's not the best parallel, but if you can relate it back to the gym, it's an experience you've had, overcome, and overcame, and kind of gone past it and gotten through things. It's a really good lesson to learn, and you can kind of apply that elsewhere. So, with the gym, that's what I aim for. And with guys like Jeremy, that was when he cut to 198 for last year's Boss of Bosses meet.
I mean,
It's pretty ridiculous.
We're checking out some of these pictures on Instagram. Looks like he's holding his dick right there. I don't know what he's doing, but
I think it's a towel, but yeah,
it's a.
I hope it's a towel.
It's an insane picture, and to be that lean without a focus of it's not like the guy does. It looks like he does sit-ups 24/7.
Right.
But I'm sure he probably has never even done a sit-up, even though you've advised him to do them. I'm sure to make his core stronger and things
Right.
like that. But yeah, it's unbelievable.
Yeah. So I mean, with people like a Zavala or people like Jeremy, I know the power that the gym can have, and all that I can, I can't make them get there. I can't force them. I can't yell at them. I can't do anything there. I just, with those guys, like, hey man, this is. You're cool here. You're safe. It's good. It's good. You can just do whatever. You can be yourself. There's no judgment. There's no anything. You get here. I'll help you get to whatever goals that I can help you out with. And if there's anything else I can help you out along the way, then I'm in for that too. And I've been lucky to have a couple of people who have kind of taken to that, and it's really kind of helped change their lives and help move them forward in a positive way. And there's some other people that it didn't, and I'm always heartbroken over the people that I can't help, and I remember those people a lot more than the successes. But you can only do so much. And, with someone like Andy, with someone like Jeremy, it's just like, hey, man, show up. I'll take care of the rest. And that's the way that you have to kind of do it, because they need to want to be there. They need to see the value of it. And then once they do that, and then they start building some good habits and, having some success, then it can really roll and really turn into what we know the gym can be for some people.
Do the other lifters sometimes look at like what Jeremy's doing or what some of the other people are doing, and like maybe they're like, shit, man, maybe I need to, miss my alarm, or maybe I need to miss a day too. Like, do they ever want to kind of copy what he's doing because he is so strong?
No, because it doesn't make any sense.
They just know that
it.
It's his own. It's his own set of rules.
It is, and I mean, we call it Tiff science because my tiny Tiff does something similar, where she just comes in and she hits a lift that's, she tripled her all-time max. Tiffany,
I gotta pee. Pee break.
Go.
You can keep going.
I'm gonna go. Okay. So something like Tiff does something that it just doesn't make any sense really, but she's able to do it just because she can, and no one's gonna say like, oh man, I should probably stay out all night and only eat beef jerky and drink Rock Stars and come into the gym and I'll be stronger. Most people are educated enough to know that that's not real life.
Right.
That's kind of Tiff science. That's Jeremy science. That's whatever you want to end up calling it. They're just crazy enough or talented enough or just enough of a freak of nature that they don't have to somehow, for whatever reason, they don't follow the same rules as, most people do.
So I'd imagine Jeremy's warm-up's probably non-existent either.
100%
Yeah.
non-existent, yes.
I was talking to Mark about that the other day. He's like, yeah, some of my biggest lifts happened when I just walked in and just lifted.
Yeah. I mean, there is something to that where it's just like turn it on and kind of go.
Mm-hmm.
But what I've been trying to do with Jeremy is, and with Tiffany as well, is force them to work out, do some sort of warm up before they get into their main session. Because for Jeremy, it's an injury proofing thing, and for Tiffany, it's more of just getting some more volume into her squat. Because for whatever reason, if she doesn't squat all the time, her squat really starts to go down for whatever reason. So she's squatting really, really often. And it's got a purpose separate from Jeremy's. Jeremy's is I'm just trying to get his hamstring, some full of blood before we do anything else, and trying to lift the way that he does. He lifts so violently that he has to be warmed up. Those muscles just have to fire, and if they don't, we're just keep putting him at risk of injury. And we've been dealing with that for like 2 years. Mark said that this is this has been a while coming. He's been capable of this for a while. It's just, he gets bit by one thing or the other. So forcing him to warm up has been helpful. And then we just kind of got to devise a way to keep him doing that or keep him entertained so he does some accessory work. Like the video you showed earlier is like, I have to tell people like, hey, if you do some accessory work, drag Jeremy with you or make him do this stuff with you. Tiffany's actually really good at it.
And he's in horrible shape.
Yeah.
Like you think he would be like fit or something, but he literally, what the guy can do is, he can lift heavy shit really explosively, but if you have him try anything else, at least without practicing it, he's not any good at it at all.
Rep work is not his friend whatsoever.
I mean, I did some lifting with him in Santa Rosa just 2 weeks ago, and he couldn't breathe the whole time. And what we were doing was not hard. We were going through a back routine, and we were lifting hard and everything, but it wasn't that difficult. I'm like, oh my god, this guy's gonna have a heart attack from doing some supersets of some back work.
Yeah, but that's what he needs. And I mean, the craziest thing is if he would do that for about 3 weeks, he would acclimate to it, and he would just be so much better off for it. He just grows and is able to lift in a way that I don't know if I've really ever seen at this to this moment.
Yeah, imagine if he was able to concentrate on that for a little bit, concentrate on some food, concentrate on some sleep, and if he weighed 250.
Well, this is the first time.
I mean, what are we talking about here, right?
Yeah, I mean, he trained consistently at about 230, anywhere between 228 and 235, depending on how much he ate kind of the day before. And then heading into the meet, we just had him. Basically, my advice was, hey, for this next week, can you stop eating like an asshole and limit your 7-Eleven to once a day? And he went from 235 to 217. So that'll tell you how much awfulness that he was eating. And that's just pretty much how it was. That was his water cut. That was his weight cut for the meet. I had a couple of messages like, "Hey, what did Jeremy do to get down to 217?" I
Cut
was
back
like,
on his
"Look,
7-Eleven.
I don't want to answer this for you because it doesn't make any sense."
Yeah, he ate less junk food and gained a bunch of weight.
Right.
Like, wait, what?
Yeah, it doesn't make a ton of sense. But this is the first meet he was really heavy at. So, trying to keep him consistently that heavy is going to be a goal, and then we just figure out what to do afterwards.
You coach a lot of people to world records, helped a lot of people to world records, but then directly in your own gym have helped people to world records as well. What are some of the differences between those athletes that you see versus some maybe somebody else that's a little bit more middle of the road and they kind of stay there?
I really do think it's, I mean, a lot of it, and this isn't a secret. It's, outside of the gym, those people, whether they work hard or not inside the gym, I think everyone's got a decent amount of capability to it. The recovery aspect of things, taking care of yourself outside of the gym, but also kind of the mental aspects, the mental sides of it, where someone like Jeremy, at Boss of Bosses, I always try and be like, hey, what do you think for a second? It's like, I don't care. Just put whatever on. I trust you. That's a lot on me, but it's also one of those things where, thankfully enough, Jeremy doesn't understand kilos, but they say that all the time. I mean, I know I've helped you at meets, and you're like, I don't want to know what you put on. Like, okay, cool. And now lifting, Mark Bell, 400 kilos. You're like, fuck, I didn't want to hear that. I did not want to know what that is. He has no idea. He's like, Jesse said I can do this, so like, do I lift now? Is that cool? So there's a mental aspect of things, or a mental preparation of things, where these people just they click into the zone, if you want to call it, whatever it is, where they're just dialed in and nothing can kind of pull them out, no matter what it is. And they just execute at a level that is at a perfect level. They're going to hit these astronomical weights that no one's ever lifted before, or very few people have lifted before, and make it look easy. And that's so, like, I'm gonna have to grind anything out to get a PR, and it's gonna take an extra 4 seconds. Where those, a couple of the people that I get to work with, it's just it's gone, and you're like, damn it, I should have put 20 more kilos on that bar. But it just doesn't even make sense that they were able to do, like Jeremy. Like, before he squatted 804, I think the biggest squat that he did in the gym was 727. Which was his opener.
It's insane.
So it's like, well, that went really well. I guess we'll put some more weight on the bar. And you're like, shit, look at that.
Not bad.
All right, we'll just add some more, I suppose. So, there's just it's that fearlessness. It's that almost mild recklessness, just being kind of a savage, and just going out there and, having this belief in yourself that you can lift whatever it is, no matter what it is or what the situation is. They don't care. They're like, I'm just going to do this. It doesn't matter. Once they have themselves convinced, that's what it is. So it's more of a mental thing, and taking care of themselves outside of the gym that's going to really separate the middle of the road to the really, really special people.
Have you ever seen anybody in your experience, all the different people you worked with over the years, some short, some fat, some tall, some skinny, some this, some that, some old, some young?
Yeah.
All the way from our buddy Mark that you've been working with for a long time, who was diabetic and was having a really hard time, like even picking up, I think, like a plate off the ground, right? All the way to some of these world record holders. You ever met anybody that doesn't possess the ability to get better, get stronger?
Not yet. Everyone can. I mean, one way or the other. I mean, that's the beauty, and that's the horror show about kind of lifting. Like, you can have a wonderful day and everything there, but there's a 1 kilo plate, or there's a half a kilo plate staring you in the face saying, you didn't put me on the bar, though. And there's always going to be one more thing you can do. And, there's different qualities of strength, maximal strength, endurance, etc. So there's
shout out to our boy Mark Wilson.
Wilson.
His last name just popped in my head.
So, people are going to be able to, improve range of motion, make something look better, make a squat look better, lift more weight, lift a weight for more reps. There's always a way to do it. And, no matter what way you slice it. And I'm getting to work with, a bunch of high school kids, and I have a couple more special clients, one with some cerebral palsy at this point, who will actually be lifting at the meet, which is going to be really, really cool. I'm really, really pumped for him, and that's going to be really something kind of special. And, I just got to hope I don't cry too much in front of him, so he doesn't freak out.
I'm so proud.
I know.
I'll be crying with you, buddy. We'll cry on each other's
yeah,
shoulder.
it's a deal. But yeah, I mean, if you apply yourself, there's always a way,
Yeah.
no matter what kind of condition you're in or what's going on, there's always a way to get better. There's some way to get better. It's just about, like I said, man, if you show up, we can take care of the rest.
People have this preset thing in their body, in their system, or in their brain, probably more so than anything. Let's just say that you started prescribing some running for your lifters, right?
Oh my God.
Say, I talked to Vlad, and Vlad squatted, 1,200 pounds or whatever, and 1,100 pounds in knee wraps, and has the all-time world record. And he mentioned to me that he does some boxing, he does some running. I think it'd be great for some of us to run. So you get a group of people to run, but you get a couple people who say, I can't run, and that's where we run into some issues. As soon as people kind of throw up that blockade, maybe somebody does have some sort of outstanding injury that is not allowing them to perform any of this stuff. But I think a lot of us need to pause for a second when we say I can't, and we need to rethink what we're actually saying. Maybe you can't deliver what the person's asking you to deliver at a high intensity, or make it look pretty, or make it look good. But maybe the conversation isn't that you can't run. Maybe the conversation is that, hey, you know what, Jesse, kind of embarrassing. You said, we all got to run a mile.
Right.
I really struggle with running. So is it okay if I do like a little bit of like a run walk, or even for today, if I just walk? Because I don't know, like running might make me sore for 2 months.
Yeah.
Right. It's a different conversation than starting out by saying, I can't.
Mm-hmm.
And when we talk about getting stronger, it's actually pretty rare that somebody will see that in themselves, where they'll say, I don't think I can get any stronger. But they still will say, I don't think I can do that. They'll see somebody deadlift maybe, and maybe it's their first time deadlifting. Yeah, look, man, I've hurt my back a lot. I can't do that. Well, okay. Well, how do we have information that tells us that you can't do it? Is your hand paralyzed? You're not going to be able to pick the weight up. It's going to fall out of your hand. Is there something you can't bend down to the bar and reach the bar? I mean, we've seen all kinds of limitations in the people we've helped over the years. But the important thing for people to understand is that you can.
Mm-hmm.
You can do it, and it might take a while. It might not look like the way everybody else is lifting. It might not look like the way everybody else is running. But over a period of time, you can figure it out.
Right. And I mean,
a good coach makes a big difference.
It's true. And I think, that's why everyone has a different style. And that's why I thought, one of the things that you said that, has really resonated with me for a long time is like, if you're going to try and mimic someone, they should be similar to your build, tall, height, weight wise, where, if you're going to try and look at the way that Benedict Magnuson deadlifts and just do what he does, it's probably never going to work. So, I mean, people's comparisons are just so wild, where they want to look like the best in the world. But
picture Smokey's like right now, he's on YouTube looking up Jay Cutler. He's like, I got to find someone that looks exactly like me.
Exactly.
Oh, there you go. Jay Cutler in his prime. There we go.
But, if people kind of just accept the fact that they may not look like that now, but maybe they can look like that later on, there's always a way to accomplish something,
or even just looking at somebody saying like, yeah, like I got really long legs, and you watch someone else lift and they got long legs too. Like, oh, okay.
Figure out how they do it. Yeah.
Or you got long ass arms and you have this crazy bench stroke.
Right.
Then you see somebody else that just did 500 pounds for 5 reps with this long ass bench stroke.
Mm-hmm.
Well, maybe that's somebody that you should maybe pay attention to some of the stuff they're doing.
And I think, like you were touching on it, a lot of it is all mental. There's these weird barriers. I mean, I remember when the 1,100-pound barrier in gear got broken by Steve Goggins, and then the 1,000-pound bench got broken by Gene Reichlach, and then the 1,000-pound squat got, or the 1,000-pound deadlift got,
Andy Bolton
taken away by Andy Bolton.
We were there. We were there, baby.
We were. But
we were there for the 1,100-pound squat too.
We were. But I mean, after that, everyone was like, oh, I can squat 1,100 pounds, or, oh, I can bench 1,000 pounds. No big deal. You're like, wait, like, what was the difference between yesterday and today? I'm like, somebody did it, so I believe I can do it too.
Right.
So, I mean, if you also have some of those examples in the gym or whatever it is that happened. Like, I have a girl who's going to be, I think she's lifting next weekend in Chicago. She's going through the meet prep for the first time, and the meet prep is just terrible. She's like, I feel terrible. I want to quit. This is awful, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, look, that means you're going to have a good meet. Just trust me on this. You're getting kind of overtrained. You're accumulating fatigue. When we pull all this volume out, the intensity is going to come back up, and you're going to be able to be there, and you're going to crush some stuff once you get there. But she's depressed, and she's talking to literally everyone, and everyone's like, I've gone through the same thing. You're going to have a great meet. Don't worry about it. Just focus in on, just believe, trust in the process, trust in the process. So to have a gang of lifters, to have a bunch of people around who have gone through, maybe not exactly what you're going through or anything along those lines, it helps out a lot, because people can be like, yeah, I did the same thing. Don't worry about it. It's all good. So, I mean, that was, Jeremy was like, look, five weeks before my meet, I told Jessie that I wanted to quit, like, everything. Like, I was ready to quit everything. And she's like, huh?
Right.
I was like, yeah, it's just the way it goes. Just fight through it.
There's some differences too. Like, if you have pain that's really holding you back,
Sure.
then that might be a problem, because somewhere in the training, something may have went a little overboard, and you might inflame something. And now we got to figure out, how do we make you feel a little bit better? Do we need to miss a session or train
Right.
a little differently for a week or two, so we can regain some of this? And then some of it's just flat out fatigue. Which,
Right.
if it's fatigue, then you'll probably take a week off or so before the contest comes around, and hopefully everything will come together.
Yeah, usually I think it does, as long as it's a accumulation of fatigue and not injury. There's light at the end of the tunnel, not another train.
Right. You mentioned there being many different types of strength, and you mentioned there's always like an extra rep or some extra weight in there. That's your training philosophy in a nutshell, because you have people do a lot of different movements. 1 week they might use a safety squat bar. The next week they might use a cambered bar, and they might box squat for 2 weeks in a row. Then they might do a regular squat. And you got some people, and obviously we're talking about the Conjugate system, some of the stuff brought to everybody's attention by Louis Simmons, Westside Barbell, the strongest gym that ever existed. And a lot of these principles are things that Jesse and I utilized in our powerlifting careers, and Jesse still utilizes it today with a lot of the athletes. People get really like apprehensive when they're not doing the same movement. Like, oh man, like if I do a 3-board press 1 week, and then I do a floor press the next, and then I do an incline bench the week after, when I get to that 4th week, I'm worried the weight's going to crush me, because I'm not going to have the strength or the movement pattern, or just, I might just like, I've heard people say this, they kind of forget how to do the lift.
Right.
I hear it more with the squat, it's more so than anything else.
Yeah.
But, and there's people that have these, real concerns. What have you seen and utilized in the method? Like, let's just talk about, we already know some of the strengths. Where do you feel some of the weaknesses lie?
In kind of the Conjugate programming?
Yeah.
I think I think what happens a lot of times with Conjugate, I think people need to understand, kind of drift through kind of the history of kind of the Conjugate system, where it was a Russian Olympic lifting program to start.
Oh, we can't talk about the Russians.
That was taken.
They got our president in office.
They got everything. Which was taken by Louis and morphed into a program for geared powerlifters. And now, since powerlifting has really kind of switched from geared powerlifting to raw powerlifting, you really have to look at this stuff through kind of a filter. A lot of the stuff that made sense, that one of the variations in a suit, on a box, or boards in a shirt, they can't apply to raw lifting. So we can't take those. We can't train as heavy of a percentage. You have to go lighter. You need to do more sets, more reps when you're doing raw. So these are
something that you and I really came to the conclusion of. When we get in our squat suit, and if we did a squat that was 900 pounds, it was close to parallel, we kind of knew, like, yeah, we can take that into competition. We most likely can replicate it or something close to it.
Right.
There's really no reason for us to roll the dice and do another set, because if we do another set, it could wipe us out. Contest is getting a little too close. We handled 850 on the set before. That's plenty heavy enough.
Right.
And then we handled 900 for the main set, and we're out. We're done.
Right.
Assistance exercises.
Right. Yeah. So, I mean, in that level, the intensity is so high, and the intensity is heightened even further because of the equipment. If you can squat 600 pounds raw, say you put on a suit and you can squat 900 pounds, that's, central nervous system is buzzing, going
Yep.
crazy. And you really can't push that because the risk to reward ratio is really tipped, against you. It's not in your favor at that point. So, the super high intensity stuff starts to disappear a little bit. The higher volume, higher frequency starts to come about. And I think, there does need to be a little bit less of a pool of exercises that you pull from.
Oh, okay. So maybe like instead of having, like at West Side, maybe they used, let's just say 30 or so for lower body for their
Right.
squat.
Right.
Maybe now you're using like 8,
Right.
10 or something, or 6.
I mean, the reason why the box squat was so prevalent was it mimicked being in a suit so much. So this was a way to be in your suit without being in your suit. But if you're not going to wear a suit, you probably shouldn't box squat all the time, right? And I mean, a raw free squat looks a lot different than a suited, like a multiply suited squat does.
Right.
So those two are just very, very different movements.
It's also multiple ways to box squat too. Right? I mean, we can kind of release the hips, and we can sit on the box and do a standard kind of West Side barbell, Louis Simmons. I'm going to compete in gear squat or dynamic effort squat to kind of get into the hips, the hamstrings, the glutes a little bit more. Or we can just do kind of like a touch and go squat, which
Like a
is
stand efforting.
Yeah, we're trying to find the proper depth, or we're trying to lean forward into it on purpose, or maybe we're trying to get into the quads. Just the other day, we had a bodybuilder here who was squatted very, very upright.
Mm-hmm.
And when you watch somebody squat really, really upright, it's like, okay, if I'm trying to mimic that and I'm trying to get into my quads, what would that look like if I tried to squat exactly like him? And for me, that would mean I would have to squat onto a pretty high box.
Mm-hmm.
I'd have to drive the knees forward. I don't have the mobility. At some point, I'm going to sandwich forward, right? I'm going to squish forward, and you've seen it a million times. You can't even handle it anymore.
No.
You're like, I don't want to see this shit one more time and kill myself. But as you're squatting down, different people are going to have different limitations. So you can use the box for something like that too, where you can squat to a different depth. Maybe you have a lifter who's terrified to squat 3 plates. Well, hey, we're going to have you squat onto this box. It's going to be like 5 inches high, and you're going to handle 3 plates.
Right.
Makes them feel like freaking Superman.
Yep.
And it's just for the moment. And yes, it's high, but we accomplished something. We got you to get over that mental barrier of lifting those weights.
Yeah, and I think that's something that using those tools and using something like a slingshot and boards, it allows you to kind of break past these things all the time. And I always think about what, like the barrier side of things with Amadeo, who pulled like 595 and 5 meets in a row, but anytime we put 600 on the bar, he couldn't do it.
He got allergic to it.
So then we put 635 on the bar, and he pulled it like an empty bar. Like it sometimes people just get obsessed with what's on the bar.
I think
like
for
5
Andrew's
or 6
sake,
plates.
we should point out that he's Mexican as well.
He is taco truck.
So who knows what's wrong with him?
Yes. But I mean there are those boundaries, and if you can use something to kind of get people over that, then that's great. I think something else that happens in Conjugate a lot of times is kind of the dynamic effort stuff, where you're supposed to be practicing perfectly and producing force and practicing your craft goes just way too heavy, and people kind of bastardize that and they throw way too much stuff on there. And they're taking 3 or 4 minutes breaks and things of that nature. I mean, a true dynamic...
Smoking a cigarette in between, a la Treston Scholl.
Yeah. If you look back to the early West Side videos, I mean, they were trying to run people out of their group 4 or 5 at a time, and they were literally like pushing you out of the way to get underneath that bar.
Well, you and I used to try to kill each other.
Yeah, but I mean, those are some of the most productive squat sessions we ever had.
Yeah.
And I mean, that's what that should be. It's about putting yourself under a different kind of, demand and, trying to execute perfectly underneath those conditions. And I think people just take those percentages and say, this is too light. I'm like, yeah, it's 50%. It's supposed to be light.
Yeah.
Do it perfectly with 60 seconds rest in between 15 times.
Mm-hmm.
Let me know how you feel afterwards.
Right.
And that's what that should be. I think people take that and they turn this practice that, it's supposedly, kind of perfecting your craft, so to speak, and they turn it into something that is, just bastardized, out of control, doesn't look like anything, and ends up being non-productive.
It's not too different from other sports. There's other situations in other sports where maybe you're working on like precision.
Sure.
You're working on like accuracy. You're slowing things down. Maybe in basketball, you're just out shooting by yourself, and you're working on like free throws, and there's no one else on the court. There's no one no one playing defense. There's nobody. You can work on particular foot movements and patterns and fadeaways and these different things without all the other distractions. And sometimes with your lifting, you sometimes just need to flat out practice.
Right.
You sometimes just need to like get a feel for the weight. If you are a newer lifter and it feels like you don't have the lift down the way that you want to, or the way that you see other people do a lift, if you feel like it's off and you don't have a good coach around you, simply just lower the weight to the point where you can actually think as you're lifting.
Right.
Which might be really light. I mean, now we're talking 20 or 30%. You might
Yep.
be really lightweight. Let's say you can squat 3 plates. Maybe there's just a 45 on each side, or maybe even just 95 pounds on the
Yep.
bar. Get that weight on there and talk to yourself as you're doing the lift. Think about the cues that you maybe heard me say or Jesse say in a seminar, or Ed Cohen or Stan Everett, whoever. Find somebody, follow some of the principles, some of the rules, and as you're squatting down, rather than thinking "don't fart," or rather than thinking about "don't fart," or rather than thinking about like not dying because
Right.
the weight is so heavy, and you're not sure like whether you're going to tip to one side or blow out your knee. Like when you get heavy weights on there, a lot of times that's all you're thinking about. Like, I'm going to get hurt. This is pain. You unrack it, and you're like, this is painful, and I don't know about any of this.
Right.
I don't really know how this is going to go, but I got a lot of people watching me, so I'm just going to pretend I know what I'm doing. Here we go.
Yeah, for me, it's whenever it's a heavy weight, like if we do go 225 or more, whatever, for a squat, I'll just forget a lot of the cues and
Yeah.
just like don't die, I fuck everything up. Yeah,
Self-preservation.
exactly. Yeah, instead of like pulling myself down, I'll just dive and can't figure out why I can't push myself out of the hole.
Yeah.
Yeah, you fell all the way from the top and
Right.
just collapsed. Knees come in, shoulders go forward. You're like, whoa, what happened on that? You're like, I don't know, man.
Yeah.
But it wasn't a good idea.
Mhm.
But you take those weights down and you have a cadence, maybe slow down the movement pattern a little bit. Have weights on that are light enough to where you can talk to yourself and you can try to figure out, how does this feel?
Right.
Okay, they said to drive the knees out. Oh, shit. Like maybe you're even squatting in front of a mirror, right? You're just thinking, oh, crap, my right knee is caving in for some reason. Well, with 95 pounds in your back, when you can squat 315, you can very easily push out both knees, and you can think about it. Okay, now I need to push out both knees. Okay, I need to sit back. Okay, my chest has to come up. Oh, shit, or even video it. Have somebody else watch it. There's a lot of ways we can analyze all this. You go back, you watch the video, and like, man, my elbows are really high, and I'm really pitched forward in that squat. That doesn't look right. Well, now we can work on it again, and we can
Right.
work on it again. The other great thing about that is that's not going to cost you anything. The only thing it's going to cost you is a little bit of a time investment.
Right.
But
You're
you're
not
not
gonna
going
be so sore
You're not going to
afterwards.
get
Right.
sore. You're not going to get tired. It's fun. It's a way to move around. You can think about it as a little bit of stretching or something like that. And it's just something you can get a lot out of, because a lot of these movements, sometimes they feel foreign to us. They
And
feel really weird, right?
I know we've had a conversation which was very strange. We've had the same dream, and woke up at the same spot in the same dream where we bench pressing in our dreams. I mean, and that's kind of one of those things where it needs to be so ingrained that you can bench press in your dream, and you're set up right, and you end up trying to press something out, and you hit your wife or your girlfriend, and you're like, what are you doing? I had a big bench in my dream, and I hit it, and it was perfect. So let's go back to sleep.
So about that,
Speed bench.
just read about this dreaming, and whatever the same. So I got really excited for this. Sorry, because
Oh.
I read it this morning.
Uh-huh.
So in the Matthew Walker book, they ran a test.
Oh, this is about the learning thing with Matthew?
the sleep book.
Yeah.
Okay, so they had whatever those like neurological like sensor things
Just
all over the head.
Sick ass hats, basically.
Yeah. So they're like, okay, squeeze your left hand, squeeze your right hand. Do that over and over and over. So they measured all the wavelengths and everything. So then when they got into deep sleep, like do that again while you're dreaming. And they were able to like cue them up, like move your eyes to the left, squeeze your left hand, squeeze your right hand, da da da. They didn't actually move, but their brain showed that it did the exact same things when they were awake. So I instantly started thinking like, oh, fuck, 225 bench. Please dream about a 225 bench. So my brain knows what the hell is going to happen.
Yeah, and in that, I don't want to ruin the book for you or anybody else, but what's amazing about
But
it
at the end, these aliens come in and none of it's true.
Yep, this is all fake. But what's really interesting is they had to actually shorten a lot of that out because they would it's almost like a cadence. It's like a ba 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 ba, and that's kind of how it fires in your brain. But it was sped up by like 10 times. So all they heard was this.
Oh shit.
So then they're just like, God, what is that? And then they slowed it down, and then they were able to see like, oh my God, you're learning at like a 10 times clip as you normally would. So that's why the whole, sleep on it.
Yeah.
Let me sleep on it type of thing. You're actually going to think about it, and your brain will actually think about it and figure it out. They'll solve the problem for you. I think it was it Edison? He talked about Edison a lot, and that's what he would do. He would try and fall asleep, but he would have like
steel balls,
and they would hit the floor and wake him up, and he would have the answer to these intense, like universal physicist type of questions, and be able to kind of answer them.
Yeah, he would sleep with them in his hand while sitting down, and when they dropped, he would just wake up and write everything on his mind
that he remembered. Yeah, and he would think about the problem until he fell asleep, and then those would drop, and he would wake up, and he would have the answer. He'd be like, "Oh, there you go."
It's back when like Tesla and Edison were in like a battle.
Battle?
They were battling for ideas, for sick ideas.
Yeah.
Now we got Bezos and Musk going back and forth. Each guy's got to have a rocket bigger than the other, if you know what I'm saying. Colonizing Mars? No.
Oh,
wait.
yep.
Huh? Wait.
No, yeah.
Maybe
I
not.
get it.
I don't know. Yeah, a lot of that stuff from Matthew Walker's is really amazing. Some of the stuff he shared on Joe Rogan's podcast.
Fascinating.
And it's a lot of the stuff that you just said, but it was insane. It was something like about, and who knows? I don't have the ability to be able to digest studies, and I don't know I wouldn't know a good study if it hit me in the face. I don't know any of this stuff, but like just based off of some of the studies that he was pulling and some of the information he was sharing, he's basically saying some of the effect of that you could start a workout out better. Let's say it's like. It could be powerlifting, but something that is a little bit more movement based and not so much strength based. Because strength, we would just think, okay, well, he said 60% better. I'm going to load the bar up 60% more. It's not. Right. It's not in reference to that. It's in reference to coordination and things like that, and kind of skill acquisition. So if you think about you're doing like jujitsu, well, jujitsu can be really complicated. You're like, okay, last time Jesse had me here, and then I needed to roll. No, wait, that's the wrong way. I need to roll this way. Well, basically, if you get proper amount of sleep, you can start your next workout X percentage. I think they said it was like something like 40% better than if you didn't have the proper sleep. So you're learning your ability to remember. Sometimes people say, I can't remember names. Well, maybe they have a hard time with these like little things that they always talk about or always say. Because they're not getting proper sleep, right? And they're not ever associating that back. Supposedly, we dream about a lot of these things, and it all plays back in our head, which is just I find that fascinating.
The whole thing's fascinating. I think I know you went over this on the Joe Rogan podcast, but the whole becoming a doctor, and you have to do your internship or your clinical hours.
Your residency.
And how that all. Do you remember that?
Yeah,
that was amazing. That blew my mind because he goes over kind of the whole drowsy driving aspect of things, and then this was also when I was supposed to have my surgery, and I was just like, man, there's like 80% of a chance that this guy's going to screw up if he has less than 6 hours of sleep before he touches me. Like, I got to make sure that I want to be in the middle of the day, not the first one. I want him to warm up on somebody.
How was
first.
your night, Doc?
Yeah, how'd you sleep last night? You do good.
Warm up.
Yeah, just warm up on that guy over there, and then come and hit me when you got a couple of, a little bit more coffee in you.
You don't want the Jeremy Ovilla of surgeons.
I don't want the Jeremy Ovilla of surgeons because he's going to try and operate on me with like a Slim Jim, like the beef jerky stick, not the thing you break into cars with.
No warm
Smoky.
Up.
Oh my God,
the beard.
So back to some of the conjugate stuff we were talking about. We were talking about some of the weaknesses of it. Some of the weaknesses of it may be because people were trying to take some Louis Simmons information from the geared powerlifting world, and we're just trying to go 1-to-1 ratio, apply it, boom, right over to raw lifting. And for
Right.
some people that didn't work. We did see it work amazing for Stan Efforting,
Right.
and that could be the training age and some different things, and maybe he didn't need set after set after set.
Well, I think he, that's excel. I think he's a special person, but also he bodybuilded for a very, very long time, and he
bodybuilded.
bodybuilded.
Write that down. That's a shirt.
Bodybuilded.
Bodybuilded. Circle R.
For a long, long time. So he had an exorbitant amount of reps underneath him.
Yeah.
So he already had the practice, and he already I remember the first couple times that Stan was squatting, you were like, how the hell do I fix this guy? I was like, what's to fix? He's going to squat whatever the hell he wants. Don't try and do anything. Just let him keep doing what he's doing. Just keep loading the bar up and just kind of, play with a couple of things with the bars and some bands and chains, try and slow him up, speed him,
It was amazing because,
Yeah.
I've helped a lot of people over the years. You have people try a closer stance or wider stance, and a lot of times it doesn't really make that big of a difference.
Right.
You're like, how'd that feel? And sometimes mentally, because you were the one to tell them, hey, try a wider grip or try this, they say they feel better, but you didn't really notice anything all that different. With Stan, I was like, hey, let's, I kind of, a lot of us are squatting, wider. Why don't we see what that looks like? Because you're tall, kind of have long legs, and he squatted wider, and it was like, bam! It's like, holy crap! I've never seen anything make that big of a difference that quickly. So, yeah, he was definitely a real mutant. But for most people, they're probably going to need a little bit more sets. A lot of times, West Side max effort work. Sometimes we're looking at, Louis really wanted one set.
One set of max.
And he wanted
usually
max weight, which is a daily max, which is just whatever your max is for the day. It could be quite a bit less than the last time you did it. It could be quite a bit more than last time you did it. But the point is you're trying to handle a weight that's heavy, that taps into your nervous system, right? And so for some of the raw lifters, they may have to adapt and they may have to change things a little bit, add in a few more sets. Maybe they take smaller jumps. Is that how you do it with some of your athletes? More sets?
We try and do kind of both and all, Very rarely do I put a max one on the board for for the athletes at CSA and also the distance athletes. We do a lot of max 3s and 5s, and then we'll always do kind of back off sets. And I think we started kind of the 80% back off sets. When we were working with each other and working with some people because people were taking huge jumps, plate, quarter, one, and then they're done. Like, bro, you didn't do any work there. You got to go back down and, try and get some more reps in you. So, I try and preach to people to try and take small jumps and get yourself warmed up and get everything primed to kind of get up to that weight. And also to remind them that it is training, it doesn't necessarily matter what you do today. If you're fatigued and you fatigue yourself in the warm-ups and maybe you don't hit the biggest 3 or 5, it really doesn't matter. It's going to tax you in a different way. And it's going to make you better down the line.
Right.
I remember Constantine KK would always talk about, I did sets of 10, like all the way up until he did a max single. Like, holy cow, you did a set of 10 with 85% of your best max? That's ridiculous.
Right.
And then he did a single, and then he was like, okay, good, I'm done. I mean, if we tried to do sets of 10, that'd be just ridiculous.
Yeah.
But that's a different way to train. And then we invented the cheat method, which was basically do like 10 or 15 for the first couple and then kind of go single, and then go ahead and hit your rep max or, kind of that max 3 or 5 or whatever it is.
Cheat code.
And then kind of come back underneath and then try and add a little bit more of, kind of the work sets after that. So you can see the people who do take their time and really kind of get things underneath there because their form and their technique, is better. And again, it's just coming back to the whole hard work thing. I mean, it's not easy to take, it's not always easy to take a 10 or a 10-5 opposed to a quarter plate jump, especially if you're in a group of people, you're all going to be in a competitive atmosphere and kind of go from there. So I actually think personally that that's the best thing that Conjugate has really ever did is, set the tone and put an atmosphere and an air of competition all the time in the gym. So I think that's what's really kind of separated that aspect of it. And I mean, people who are doing it alone in a, in their garage or in a, commercial gym, they're missing that aspect of it. And, it's hard to kind of find that extra gear to do that. So I mean, I think while it's not impossible, to training partners are always awesome, and training partners with something like a Conjugate, type of program is paramount in my opinion.
Yeah, people that are bored of their training and they want to try something new and try something different, I think it's a great way to uh, to have something new and something
Yeah.
different around, because you get to do different exercises
Right.
often. You get to
Right.
try new and different things, and I think people sometimes are so concerned about their training, they're so worried that they're going to take a step backwards. But sometimes you need to kind of go a little bit backwards or go a little bit lateral in order to keep progressing forward. Because if you can find something that allows you to continue to train, and if you can figure out a way to feel good, feel healthy without having, pain in your knee or pain in your hip or
Right.
whatever it might be, if you can, whatever way you can figure that out, if you can be around longer, you'll probably be stronger,
Yeah,
right?
I
You
always
gotta
call that,
hang in there.
it's, you don't want to train expensive, you want to train cheap.
Right.
If you can find these little things that, that just like, any sort of straight bar tricep extensions, like destroy my elbows to the point that I can't squat the next day and I can't bench the next time a bench workout comes along. But if I do a million band tricep extensions, I'm getting the growth that I need to, the stimulation into the muscle that I need to, and I'm able to squat and bench, the next day. So, kind of finding those cheap little exercises that are going to get things done without blasting you and not allowing you to train the next day. Those are the key little, those are the magic little kind of bullets that you can kind of find that are laying around there. And I think that that's what Conjugate to me is really great at, is finding things that mimic a movement, but in a way that costs you a little bit less costs a little bit of costs less on the wear and tear side of things.
Yeah, I remember Rick Husey. He used to say, "Big lift, little lift." You hit a big lift. You blew it out, and you got a big PR in your squat. Maybe on the next workout, when it's time to bench, maybe you work on, like, not necessarily just benching less, but maybe your bench workout just looks different.
Right.
So if you handled a PR squat or some sort of PR squat movement, maybe when it's time to bench press, maybe that's where you do try something a little different as your main movement. Maybe that's when you do dumbbells. Maybe that's when you switch to incline bench or something like that. I think a lot of people don't understand your squat can hurt your bench.
Totally.
Your bench can hurt your squat. Your deadlift can hurt your bench. Your deadlift can hurt your squat. They can all hurt each other.
Yep.
And we kind of don't realize it. Like, I've heard people say many times, like, "Oh, my elbows don't ever hurt when I squat."
Right.
But it can still, or maybe they don't feel like they hurt when they're deadlifting.
Right.
Well, yeah, because maybe they're just not in a position to where they're actually getting compromised that's causing pain. But are they getting twisted, and are they getting moved in some weird positions? Are you handling large amounts of weight that way? Maybe you don't feel it when you do like a row, because maybe the way the row is set up, or a pull-up. But maybe your biceps are kind of taking over that movement, and so you're not feeling it. But when your triceps go to take over a similar movement pattern, now your elbow's on fire, and you're like, "Shit, man, what do I do?"
Right.
And you can't kind of figure it out. You're like, "Oh, I'm trying to balance everything out," and that's where maybe using a different bar
Yeah.
might come into play, right?
Absolutely. I was talking to Smokey about it earlier, about Sean at our gym. He's having a great training cycle.
Is he really fat right now?
That
That guy gets pretty fat.
He does. He gets
He gets
pretty
fluffy.
big.
I'm proud of him.
He does. He eats well. He just got like a new grill too.
He
so.
benched like five or so in training, didn't he?
Yeah, he benched. Yeah,
Did he do it in meet yet?
No, not yet.
He's getting there.
He's getting there. But
Awesome.
but one of the biggest challenges is his squat. His low bar squat destroys his wrist, destroys his elbows.
Yeah.
So as we're heading into I think we're 10 weeks out of record breakers at this point, which he's going to be doing. I was like, okay, hey man, we got to kind of prepare for the fact that your elbows and your wrists are going to hurt. So anytime that it says straight bar,
Remember, this happens every time.
Exactly. And I was like, hey, you have elbow
Let's not
sleeves, right? He's like, yeah. I was like, let's put them on for the squat. Let's put on some wrist wraps for the squat. Let's try and make sure we minimize the damage, because we're 10 weeks out. We can't accumulate 4 weeks of damage and then you limp into the meet. Let's do everything we can to minimize things as we're kind of going through and, turning our dynamic effort, days on Friday. Maybe he just uses the belt squat or something along those lines to keep him healthy so he can keep training, can peak into the meet, and then ultimately can compete healthy once the meet comes. Because if your elbows are hurting, going into a squat, they're really going to hurt after the squat, and they're really going to hurt your bench press.
Yeah, it hurts like crazy.
Yeah, you always said that your bench was the worst thing for your deadlift.
Oh yeah, well, I was also benching in a bench shirt, so it compromised everything. But a lot of people don't understand that, that the arch that you have when you're benching. I'm not going to say that it's bad for your back, but it is a weird position to be in. It's a weird position to try to. It's a weird position to try to hold.
Right.
It certainly doesn't feel like just a natural, ordinary position that you would otherwise be in. Right? It's an exaggerated position.
Mhm.
And it can put a lot of stress on your lower back. That's why I've always worn a belt when I bench. I don't have pain when I bench. My back doesn't hurt when I bench, but it's to make sure that my back doesn't get all jacked up
Right.
for those other lifts. And also, too, like, why not use knowledge? Why not use some knowledge that you obtain over the years and say, oh, you know what? Those bodybuilders that do the weird benches with their feet up, or Adrian Larson or some of these people, they do these different styles of benches to have a different result.
Right.
Adrian Larson, he has whatever you want to call it, a disability, and he's not able to get his legs on the ground, and so therefore he developed really strong arms, and therefore he's got the Larson press, and he shares that with a lot of other people. And people try a variation of the Larson press, but a Larson press or a floor press or just having your feet up like a bodybuilder can just take all the stress off your lower back. So if you hurt your back deadlifting or squatting, or you tweaked it somehow, take 2 or 3 weeks or a month. Take a month and don't put your feet on the ground on the bench.
Yeah.
Is it going to hurt your bench? No, it's going to help your bench.
Right.
Now you might have to pay attention to the weight that you use because now everything's going to be different. You can't use the same percentages. You got to be careful you don't hurt your shoulder, your elbow.
But it's still going to be hard.
I've seen that happen many
Right.
times before, but you're going to save your back. Your back's going to recover, and now you'll be, back to lifting whatever you lifted before, and then some.
Yep. I think Vinny DeCenzo did that for a long time. He'd called it the chair press.
Yeah.
He put his legs up on the chair,
Mm-hmm.
and he had to do that for a long time. I don't know if it was an injury or what
I think it was a knee.
Was it his knee? But he would have his legs up, and he even did it in a shirt. So
Right.
he was benching really, really big weight in a shirt with his legs up, which is just horrifying to think of if you've ever been in a bench shirt. That's just the stability and balance. It has to feel awful. On a good day, a bench shirt feels, wobbly and about, and that it's going to fall out of your hands at all times, let alone not having your legs on the ground, too.
You got something over there?
I was just wondering if you guys watched anything from the Mr. Olympia this weekend. We have a new Mr. O.
We do.
I know. It's crazy. Yeah, Sean Roden. He toppled the champ, and it was impressive. It was amazing. I mean, Sean Roden came in diced up. Phil Heath didn't look as lean as he's looked in previous Olympias. I don't know if there was an injury or something happened, but you got to give it to Sean Roden. He came in and he looked awesome, and he's the champ.
Yep. It's, I think we always kind of see this, the torch will somewhat get passed, it'll get passed back and forth, and then it, finally, exchanges hands for a while. And, I think it's one of those things, again, kind of like, oh, nobody can beat Phil, nobody can beat Jay, nobody can beat Ronnie or anything along those lines. Then somebody comes out and does. And then, unfortunately for that champion, unless they're, going to double down on their efforts, usually everyone can kind of start to, come back and surpass him. And we hope for Phil's sake that he's able to come back and get over whatever hamstrung him getting into the contest, because it's pretty clear if we look at all of his past shows that something wasn't right.
Yeah.
There was something, either he changed or there was something going on. And, if he's able to fix that, I'm sure he can get into the shape. But I mean, now, Sean Roden's going to go ahead and kind of build upon that as we go. So it's going to be one of those things where it's going to be really, really interesting as we go.
It's such a crazy sport, and I did the one bodybuilding show. So I don't know anything about bodybuilding, to be totally honest. It's hard to, you look at from one guy to the next, it's hard to understand why one guy beats another sometimes when you don't know, when you're not a bodybuilder yourself, or
Right.
or you haven't seen this level of competition. I mean, look at these guys. They both look
Enormous.
They both look amazing. I would say that, like, the only thing that I can see that stands out is Phil Heath. His chest looks a little bit better, but Sean Roden looks leaner.
Yes. Through the midsection, it looks like
Yeah.
Phil is just not as, cut up as he normally has been. And I mean, and Sean's legs just look so much bigger, like especially when he was walking from side to side, they're just so much more massive. But good for him. And I mean, I think that Phil's a champion that he works really, really hard, and I think hopefully he takes that as a challenge and comes back and he's better off for it, because I know Sean's it's a whole different thing when someone's who's always going to give you their best and kind of want to try and take something away from you, and that's that's when the real champions are kind of revealed.
I guess what some of this comes down to too, the way they get judged is they get judged on specific poses, and so when they start to kind of add it up at the end of the day, it's like, okay, this guy won this pose,
right?
And I don't even know how they actually score it, but I know that they go by particular poses, and so you can kind of outpose somebody. You can look better in these particular poses, which it's hard to say, like, how much better do you actually look than the other guy on a regular basis is kind of hard to figure out,
Yeah, and I mean, even them standing next to each other, you can barely see. You can see a little bit through Phil's midsection, but I mean, primarily they both look insane.
Oh, they look nuts. Look at their lats just hanging down.
Yep.
And yeah, it's just it's a crazy sport. One thing that I really enjoyed about doing some bodybuilding. And one thing that you see how he's striated through
It's just insane.
Like his hip flexors has striations in it. Jesus Christ. One thing I really enjoyed, and I really recommend that everyone should participate in some way. I'm not even saying to necessarily get on stage, but getting on stage is kind of the thing that makes you go in so deep.
Right.
I think that most people, if they tried a bodybuilding diet and they did a bodybuilding workout or bodybuilding workouts along with bodybuilding diet, and they did some cardio and they were able to push it for 2 or 3 weeks, first of all, you'd see a drastic change in your body. But secondly, you would come to the realization of, oh my God, I'm normally only about 60% in.
Right.
I do about 60 or 70% of the work, and I thought I was working my ass off. It is wild. It is really a wild thing, and I don't know how these guys do it. I don't know. Sean Roden. I know him a tiny bit from Gold's Gym, and he's always very nice to me, and we have some decent conversation. And luckily for us here at Slingshot, he rocks some of the products and things like that. But I see a lot of pictures of him and like his kid and stuff like that. I'm like, I don't know. At that level, I don't know how these guys work any of that in.
Right.
I really don't. Like it's that time consuming of a sport. It's remarkable.
Yeah, I think so many people want to be, a bodybuilder, but they don't quite understand. They think like, oh, the 3 sets of 10 or whatever it ends up being, that's going to get them there. But the reality of the situation is having to do 3 or 4 workouts a day, and really try and take the time and build those things up. It's a huge departure from what people think that they're doing when they actually see them going through it, or they're actually drugged through a workout. It's a whole different ballgame.
Yeah, and
even just doing that stuff with you, that one in Malibu with O'Hearn,
Mm-hmm.
it was like, oh, okay, sweet. We did some biceps. Like, okay, now we're gonna actually really get into that. Was the bicep warm up? I was like, oh man. I was like, all right, so four different exercises of 5 sets each was the warm up for our biceps. Got it. Check. Okay.
It kind of makes you feel like you weren't working hard before.
Absolutely.
But powerlifting is a different style of workout, and I think what happens though, and this happens in every sport, is that the sport itself promotes laziness in some way, or promotes complaining
Right.
In some way, or promotes bad body positioning and bad body posture. I'm not talking about during the actual lift. I'm talking about like just like shitty behavior, like behavior that's not conducive towards the best possible workout. And if we were to go to MMA gym and we watch these guys actually work out and watched a whole day, we could sit there and take notes on what looks shitty, right? Now we're going to get punched in the face if we're like, hey, man, like you guys need to be more upbeat and you need to, right? But it's the culture. I'm not saying it's just MMA. It's all. When you played baseball, there's a lot of dicking around that goes on, right? Mm-hmm. There's a lot of stuff. Some of the stuff when you're having fun, sometimes that's necessary to the structure of how everything works. And it's going to be necessary for the way everyone's brain works.
Right.
but this thing of like, oh man, my shoulder, and guy rubbing his shoulder, telling you about how bad his shoulder hurts. You're like, no shit, we played baseball.
Right.
All of our shoulders
Right.
hurt. Oh, my elbow. Yeah, of course your elbow. Everyone's elbow is killing them. This isn't helping anything, right? And you're going to have some of this, some of this happen when you do bodybuilding, powerlifting, and it's from me switching and going over and now seeing my team work out. I can kind of see some of that behavior. I can kind of see what some of these guys are doing, taking too long in between sets, and just these little things where you're like, man, that really adds up.
Yeah.
It'd be nice if that wasn't there, but it kind of is just part of the way things go.
Right. I mean, I think there's people who are putting out this expectation, or go, you got to spend 20 hours a week in the gym to really do it. That's not true. You're spending 20 hours in the gym a week because you like being there, because that's what you want to do. But I mean, your shoulder hurts, your back hurts, your knee hurts. What did you expect? I think the best quote was something that Max Aida told me when Abujayev was talking to one of his lifters who had an elbow injury, and he came up to him one day and he's like, "Coach, this is a Bulgarian athlete going to his Bulgarian coach, Ivan Abujayev. Coach, I don't know about today, man. My elbow hurts." And Abujayev said, "If you're a faggot, your asshole would hurt." He's like, "You're an Olympic lifter. Your elbows are just going to hurt." That's just it, man. And I mean, that's just as brutal as fuck your elbow. But I mean, it's the goddamn truth. Like, what did you think you were going to get into here? We're trying to lift maximal weights at maximal speeds and throw it over your head. You think that like this is going to be like, man, that was awesome. Like, no, it sucks, dude. Like the whole thing, it hurts. There's nothing that always feels, the accomplishment is what feels great about it.
Remember,
getting through everything, not so much.
When I asked Max, I said, what do you think of all these people doing the squat every day program? He's like, I did it for 11 years. What do you want to know about it?
Right.
I'm like, wait, what? Wait, what happened? Squat every day for how long?
But what's amazing about him is, you want to talk about just having, a motor pattern ingrained, and you know what I mean? That guy could trip, fall out of bed, and squat 600.
Oh, God.
Like he does it just so casually, and there's zero thinking. Andrew's trying to think his way, and he thinks his way out of squatting, where Max can do it. There could just be a bar somewhere in the while he's showering. I'm like, oh, I'll squat this, and he just there without even thinking about it, he'll be able to squat 600 in the shower, and it's just something that he's drilled himself into, and he'll tell you that was the worst thing he's ever done. He could barely walk, could barely move, every day, and that was the American version of the Bulgarian squat every day program, and then when he got the Bulgarian version of it, it was twice as bad. So I mean, talk about putting yourself through the ringer. That's a real way to do it.
Brutality.
Yeah.
Brutal.
That's kind of like the what I've been telling people about taking photographs. I don't have to think about capturing an image. I just put my camera up and I capture it. But when it comes to a squat, it's step 1, 2, 3, and now be strong. If I can just let's go be strong right now, then it's gonna it'll click. But
bring this full circle back to Jeremy. I actually try and get him to not think. So
that makes sense.
The more he does think, the more he fucks things up. So I mean, if he can just go on autopilot and just be singing a song or whatever he's doing, like while he's squatting, he's so much better off. Opposed to like, hey Jeremy, I want you to concentrate on doing this, this, and this. Like Jeremy, I want you to forget everything and just kind of go nuts and just come back up at the bar. Oh, okay. It's like try and forget, try not to think.
A lot of times when I'm trying to coach somebody or yell something or whatever, most of the time it's just words of encouragement.
Sure.
Come on, you can do this. Pat on the back. It's all those kinds of things. Let's go. Let's do it. Today's your day, big day. Like just whatever the hell's going to rile them up. Just trying to make them understand the focus of the day and just getting them excited. Just, and they're already excited, so it's not a huge deal. But it's just you're being verbal.
Yeah.
And you're giving them feedback. They get the feedback. They hear your voice. They hear you yelling. They know that you're excited about it. You're telling them you think they can make it. Now maybe they're getting a little bit more confidence, but I'm not going to really talk about, driving the knee out when you have a max weight on there. Now, when you're warming up, that might be where I'm talking about that a lot more. Hey, you got to sit back. That last set, when I see somebody going through a workout, unless they're doing something really dangerous, if it's a heavier weight, I really won't say anything until later. I'll say, hey, I watched your last set, and I noticed your right foot was pointed out a lot compared to your left. didn't want to say anything while you're training
Right.
because that might be the way you squatted for the last 5 weeks, and I may not have gotten a chance to see that, or you could have been squatting that way your whole life.
Right.
You know, maybe you're a little off center, or maybe you're squatting a little different. But I think a lot of times these people are just kind of shouting these cues, not knowing, back, sit back, or whatever
Not
this
really
is.
knowing what it means. And I mean, I always do the same thing. I let people go through a squat workout and say, okay, cool, this is what happens, so we're going to address it via these accessory exercises. Right. I remember Janet used to bench with like a forefinger on the ring over here and ring finger on the ring on her left side or whatever it was. Mm-hmm. And whenever you would try and move it back, her bench press would go down 40 pounds. And you're like, you know what? Never mind. Just do it that way. If your goal is to squat, bench, and deadlift, some heavy stuff, whatever works is what's going to work for you. And we'll try and fix the rest afterwards.
Yeah, benching like insanely crooked.
Yeah.
But the other thing too is like you got to know your lifter, So if the lifter gets all hyped and they get all crazy and you see them miss a lift, well, now we have experience. Now we've seen what that lifter looks like when they get out of their mind and it wasn't effective. So now when they get up to the bar, rather than saying, "Hey, let's go, motherfucker, you can do this," now you're saying, "Hey, you got to get a nice deep breath of air. You got to hold tight, hang in there. Let's make this lift." Right. Something to kind of calm them down. Hey, you know how to squat. Let's do it. Let's do it right
execute.
Now.
Yeah.
Take a big breath of air, push into your belt. Maybe now you're actually giving them a cue because now it takes them and it eases their mind. Okay, all I got to do is focus in on what he said and I'll make the lift rather than being, going all crazy and stuff like that.
That's just that's experience and good coaching for sure.
Yeah, we were just talking about the Olympia earlier. Jesse, you were telling us how the first show that you guys ever did was the Olympia. Can you tell people a little bit about that?
Oh, for Slingshot.
Yeah.
I think the first show that I remember where we were doing a lot of product and everything was the Arnold that year. I think we just I want to say that we were as Power Magazine at the Olympia, and we were demoing the Slingshot, but not for sale. So the first time that it was for sale was at the Arnold Classic, and Mark was like, "Hey man, can you come and help me? That was really great to have you at the Olympia. It'd be really cool if you were here for this one too." I said, "Sure," and flew myself out there. We got there. Stayed at the sweet microtel right next to the airport. Had a sweet Geo Metro, I believe, to kind of drive around. Parked about 4 blocks away. Mm-hmm. All of us had 2 giant pieces of luggage to wheel into the show, so we didn't have to have anybody
sneaking all that contraband.
Sneaking all the contraband in.
Didn't have to pay the union workers.
Yeah, and then we set up. We basically moved the folding table out of the way. I think we may have had one banner, maybe a banner, and it was just in front of the table.
Yeah, I think the first show, I don't think we even had a banner. Yeah.
Yeah, and then we had a bench in there with I want to say it was only 315, maybe 405, and it was. I don't really remember a ton between there because Mark would just get them into the booth. I would put a slingshot on them, put them on the bench, put a bar in their hands. They would try it. I would take the thing off, give it to Andy. She would take them over there and kind of try and sell it, and then repeat times. I don't even know how many we sold, as many as we could that whole day. And then, on the way home, we stopped at Wendy's, and then, everybody passed out, and we woke up and we kind of did it again. And the reason I told that story was today, was just to kind of talk about, give some perspective to some of the newer Slingshot and Power employees here. Mm-hmm. Just to kind of talk about, sometimes people walk into a situation and not understand the work that got people to the current situation. And, it's a far cry from some of the shows that we get to do now, where we get to have our own hotel, we get to have our own hotel room and
go to some crazy restaurant, spend a few $1,000
exactly,
and eat whatever the fuck we want.
Exactly. And, where we have, I don't know, 10 times the booth space at this point.
Oh, yeah.
Right? And, we have, nobody knew who the hell we were. No one could find us. Now people are seeking us out.
Well, I was like our main salesperson because we just didn't have a lot of, a lot of team or anything with us. So I would go out into the crowd and say, "Hey, you want to try this out?" Or maybe I was already wearing it and I was kind of like, showing people kind of what it does, or just walking up to people cold. not I don't know them, they don't know me.
Yeah.
They don't recognize me from anything because I wasn't anybody yet, and just trying to gain attention. Or sometimes I would just yell like bench heavy with no pain, come in the booth, check it out.
Yep.
And somebody else would be bench pressing, and then they'd kind of see that and they'd kind of look, and then I'd get their attention and say, hey man, you got to try this out, man, this is going to help your bench. And,
or we would try and put them like in the middle of the aisle and force a crowd to kind of happen. And I remember getting yelled at by Andy all the time because I would go out into the crowd and give away the Power magazines and try and point people to the booth. She's like, you can't give those all away. Like, we're running out already. You can't do that. And I'm like, oh, we're just trying to get people in there, you know. And it's certainly a far cry, but those are some cool memories because of getting to kind of look back on things to where we are now, really seeing a lot of progress and really seeing the growth and everything. It's, it's pretty amazing. But, just because you see someone who's successful and you may not know the whole, you're not ever going to really know the whole story. And you don't know what it took to get here.
Right.
And, that's all I was trying to lend to people was, a little bit more perspective on, some of the journey that only I was kind of along with for a good while there. And I'm one of the last man standing at this point who's been around for that long. And the reason I've been around for that long is, I'm willing to, work hard and be consistent and always kind of be around and not, gain too much of an ego and think it's about me. It's about things that are bigger than me. And it's about, helping, my brother and, people that I love and helping them, succeed and knowing that that's going to come around my way and help me succeed. And, it's come true 100% of the time. And, just being able to even sit down and talk to some of the Slingshot employees and, share that experience and share those stories was really cool. I've spoken in front of hundreds of people and, CEOs and boardrooms. And this is the one speech this morning that really, really stressed me out more than anything. and I told Mark and I told Andy and they kind of laughed at it. But I mean, you ask Katie, dude, I've been not sleeping this whole week because, it's so important to me. You know what I mean? It's the one thing that I don't want to fuck up, that, I want to make sure that, it means a lot to me to share that story and, to be here and to have gone through it. It's something I wouldn't trade for anything in the whole wide world. It's been an awesome ride. It's been the coolest.
That's part of the reason why when I'm on here I'll talk about you have to go through certain things in order to earn certain things.
Sure.
Life you can't you can't purchase things that you want in life without having the money for it. And what I mean by that is I'm not talking about like there's a thing called the credit card. So of course you can, right?
We've both abused that situation.
But I'm talking about with life.
Yeah.
You can't pay for things that you haven't earned yet. And you have to pay the price first.
Yep.
You pay the price first, and then you get the prize. And it's not like my life was horrible and I trenched through something horrific. So I never want to paint that picture. It was all a lot of fun, but it was all a learning process and it was all a growing process.
Right.
And when you're learning and growing, it can be very painful. You learn certain things, certain ways. And luckily for me, I had Jesse around. Luckily for me, I had my wife around. And so the steps were always methodical, and that's why I talk all the time about, one foot in front of the other. It sounds so ridiculous to say it, but literally that's all it is. It's one foot in front of the other. Your head is down. If you pick your head up and keep looking at the horizon and keep looking at what's ahead, maybe you're missing some of the steps along the way. And it's important that you don't trip. It's important that you don't get sidetracked. It's important that you don't look down another path. It's important that you just keep walking forward. You just keep coming forward all the time, like an old Mike Tyson fight. And you're putting the pressure. You're putting the pressure on the day every day. I heard a thing that Dana White the other day talking about how life's going to kick you in the face, and it's ready to kick you in the face every single day when you wake up. Well, why not just take it to life? Why not just have your guard up and be fucking ready, be ready to go when it's time to wake up. You're gonna have days where you don't feel like doing a lot of these things, but if you can figure out a way to get one foot in front of the other, you can get enough momentum and you can get to a point in your life where you don't have to do a lot of the things that you don't want to do.
And kind of bring it full circle, and I think it's a great place to kind of stop is when I was on my way over here, your dad came out of the house, and I got to go give him a big hug and just check in with him and see how he's doing. And the first thing that he said, he wanted to tell me about, he's been going to the gym every day, and and
Savage.
He's awesome. But what he said is just like, one word stuck out for me. It's consistency. And I preach that to all my, he's an accountant, so he preaches that to everyone when they're dealing with their fiscal situation. And he goes, I could be consistent. And then, you told him, I was like, the one way is you just got to go in there 6 o'clock, because that's going to be the only time that you're going to be super free and everything's going to be there. Just be consistent. He goes, I can be consistent. That's what I've done with my whole life. That's what I preach. And it was really interesting because
it was something I said on the podcast. He said that sparked him in the first place. And he said that you mentioned about, like, I was talking about him and I was talking about how strong he is. And I'm like, well, why is it somebody like that can be so strong in one area, but he can't walk by a bowl of potato chips without
stopping,
throwing away his diet? Like, he might have already had a conscious thought. And my dad's really smart. He might have had a conscious thought of, I need to make some changes. I don't want my blood pressure to be high. And, maybe he doesn't want to be like ripped, but just be healthier, period. Right. So he talks about being on a diet, then boom, 15 seconds later, when it's time to eat potato chips, he's eating potato chips, right? And now he's not doing that anymore.
But he looks great, and just super proud of him. I told him that, and it was always good to see him and give him a hug. But that was pretty great.
Yeah, he's
savage.
Awesome.
I love him.
Anywho, as we wrap this bitch up, that was the first time we didn't go to the Olympia in many, many years. But we will be at the Los Angeles Fit Expo. We will be at the Arnold Classic. I think Big Jesse over here will be with me for all these events. And It's been amazing having Jesse with me along this journey. I've learned a lot from him, as well as, he's talking about learning a lot from us. And, the feeling is mutual. I've learned a lot from him. One thing that I learned from him that I would never be able to do a lot of the things that I'm doing now. And it was just your act of saying, hey, man, just tell me what you need. Like, just tell me what you need. And at first I was like, well, I can't really tell you what I need, because, like, we're both dudes and, like, you're going to punch me in the face. I mean, without ever really saying that, that's kind of what was going on in my head. I was like, well, that doesn't make any sense. I can't really boss him around or whatever. I don't pay him anything. It doesn't make any sense. I can't really do that. And as we kept moving forward, he'd always say, no. Tell me what you need. He would reassure me all the time. Like, no, tell me what you need me to do so I can do it, so I can get it done, so you don't have other shit to worry about, so that everything in the booth or everything over here runs productively. And without that, it would be really hard to be in charge, and it'd be hard to be a leader today and to be able to do all the things that I do now without having that background of just having the freedom of him saying, hey, just tell me what you need. After a while, I started to recognize that, you know what? A lot of people just want to know what you need. You tell them what you need to do, and they help you with it, and shit gets done.
Yep.
And that's it.
That's the secret.
All right. Where can people find you, Jesse Burdick?
Jesse Burdick online, anywhere, on all Instagrams, powerwad.com, and at CSA Gym pretty much all the time that I'm not here.
Jesse and I are joining forces on something that's going to be amazing, that you're all going to love, and has to do a lot with Power Magazine, moving to a digital platform. We'll give you more information as we know it, because we don't know it all yet, but we got a lot of things ironed out, and a lot of things are going to be really exciting. Strength is never a weakness. Weakness is never a strength. See y'all later.